And you were mentioning Magic Mike, which was independent film, like less than 10 million.
6.8?
Yeah, almost 7 million to produce, and the box office over $100 million, very successful. And I understand that you were doing the research, and then you meet someone, you met someone who was in that industry of the strip clubs and dancers, exotic dancers. I don't know what you call them too, strippers.
Sure.
But why you wanted to investigate, or
why did I want to spend my birthday and New Year's last year in a male strip club?
You wanted to dissect that world in a documentary. I think it's fascinating. I think I love human subject matters, and this is incredible. But why you were so still after making the film, the feature, and say, okay, I'm going back there because.
It's a great question, because after I was done with Magic Mike, I mean, if I saw another man in a thong, I was going to lose my mind. I mean, kind of. I just was like, okay, I need a, you know. But no, I'm kidding. I mean, the fact is that no one had done it. No one's done it. No one has explored that territory.
Why is that?
I think it's taboo. I think it's a very scary subject matter. Every single studio in Hollywood passed on Magic Mike.
I know.
And even after it was made, and a bidding war was had, and it was bought by Warner Brothers, and they had, you know, the bravery or the smarts to release it on July 4th weekend, and it did incredibly well. There was still a fear, I think, about the topic. I mean, it had broken the surface into the mainstream, but I think there were still so many misperceptions about it. And I had conversations with people, and all those conversations said to me that people still didn't understand it. They didn't get it. We only got to scratch the surface in Magic Mike. And me, you know, as a person, I'm fascinated with this post-feminist conversation of the roles of the sexes and where they stand, and what it means to be a man in this day and age, and what it means to be a woman in this day and age. And I'm a big believer that, you know, hundreds of thousands of years of conditioning can't be lost in 40 years. They can't be reversed. And you think you have control over your behavior, but I think we don't have as much control as we do. And I think that this movie for me became an exploration of that because of what I learned in playing this role. It became this very glossy portal into this conversation about, you know, what women want and men want, and how we're wired in the brain, and how those are very, very different things. And I just found that to be fascinating.
Were you easily convinced that has to be the first project of the company?
I mean, I do want to answer it in a way where you kind of have that moment where, okay, we're really doing this, and explaining that to my wife and her being cool with that. But no, I absolutely saw dollar signs. I saw a huge opportunity. And again, just how no one has really kind of dug into this world and really kind of seen it firsthand and with real guys. And you know, the fact that we did it in Dallas, which is separate from kind of major cities like Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Las Vegas, where you probably would get an injection of people that were just doing this as an opportunity to get to be found or to pursue these other careers. And this is what these guys do. I mean, in this bubble that we discovered, that we kind of broke open, I mean, they're celebrities in Dallas. They have followings. They have, it was just really, it was exciting, and we were looking forward to kind of, just out of, you know, a pure kind of research background interest, to find out who these people were. So I absolutely saw the potential, but I mean, after a while, you're there for a long time. You're with these guys in this world, and you're not actually one of them dancing. I'm holding a folder, and you know, I'm kind of like walking around the club as we're shooting all of this stuff. So it was a kind of a very interesting experience.
How did you gain their trust, or you were an idol for them in a way too?
Well, when we first got there, there was a lot of hesitancy on the part of the dancers, because, you know, there had been people that had shown up at their club and attempted to shoot documentaries there before we got there, and I think these guys were skeptical, didn't know who we were, but when we walked into the club for the first time, there was a giant Magic Mike poster, you know, like 20 feet high. And somebody realized I was the fireman on the poster. You're that guy, right? And I went, yeah. And all of a sudden, now everybody wanted to be in the documentary. So
of course.
I think, you know, Magic Mike gave us a bit of street credibility with the guys. And, you know, but there was a very big tragedy that we were unaware of when we got to film. And it happened only a few weeks before we got there, unbeknownst to us. And there was another set of challenges in getting these men who, many of which were witnesses to a murder in a parking lot only a few weeks before. It was a real challenge to gain their trust in order to get them, some of them, to open up for the first time, or the first time since they gave their testimony to the police and nothing was done about the crime.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Wow.
So that was, you know, you know, no, you know, Magic Mike couldn't help us with that. We had to gain their trust by our own merit and prove to them that we weren't there to, you know, make them look stupid or do something unprofessional.
Yeah, correct.
And ownership and management, I mean, they made sure that we were looking out for these people's best interests. It was never like a, you know, do as much as you want, guys, exploit this as much as you want. It was very calculated on there, so which impressed me. I mean, they had the best interest of the brand and those people involved. So that was just an added, you know, like, okay, like this is credible. Like we need to do this right.
Yeah, we got lucky.
Yeah.
You dedicated the film to Rubén Riguero, which is Angelo, right? That's the guy that you're talking about there.
Yes.
Their partner who died, who was shut down, right? Was it hard for you to get those testimonials from them?
Yes, and even the last, we were about to take off. We were done filming. We were scheduled to fly out, and the night before, we still didn't have a few pieces of key testimony. There were a few witnesses in the parking lot that night, a few key pieces to the story of what went on that night of the murder, and the guys involved had ducked us maybe 4 times each. Had said they were going to show up and didn't show up. And for whatever reason on that last night, these 2 guys finally showed up and gave the missing pieces to the puzzle for that section. So, you know, I have to give these guys credit, a lot of credit for opening up. I mean, the movie is really raw. You know, these guys opened themselves in a way that really was intimidating to me, you know, in terms of like a vulnerability level. I mean, I couldn't believe some of the things that the guys just freely said. I mean, they really welcomed us into their world, and really, I think it's a really privileged view for anyone that watches the film. I mean, there is, you can't. I couldn't believe that you know, these guys were saying some of the things that they were saying in front of a camera. So you really have to give them credit, and especially in terms of the murder. You know, it's very raw, very emotional, and it was really difficult to edit. It was very tough to edit. It took us...
Because you had to take parts out that you didn't want to at the time limits?
Well, I mean, the section involving... I mean, the movie itself was a joy to edit. It was a joy to make this movie. But, you know, editing the section about the murder that has to do with that night was very difficult for all of us that were in the room day after day. It was sad. I mean, we had tears in our eyes for days on end. It was just so emotionally taxing watching these people relive that night and losing their friend, this amazing, warm-hearted, you know, wonderful, free-spirited guy that was killed senselessly. Senselessly. It could have been avoided.
And now that you're directing and producing, and directing means that you were behind the camera asking the questions. How do you feel with that role? Now you have respect for us when we have to ask the questions, right?
Yes, I do. I do have a lot of respect for interviewers, yeah. No, it's fun. I like learning about people. You know, I don't know if that's the same for you. Maybe you hate it, you know.
No, that's why I do it.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I like meeting new people. And there's a bit in terms of Lebert where we were solving a mystery. There's a bit of police work involved, you know, especially in terms of the murder. And, you know, I had a paralegal pulling toxicology reports, autopsy reports, police reports. You know, we had reached out to countless times to the police department to no avail. You know, we had to put together the pieces of this night and talk to lawyers about how could someone murder someone in this way
And nothing happens.
and nothing happens. How could this be possible? And so tracking that down a bit, you know, activated
But don't
that.
run a red light in LA because you're gonna get behind
Yeah.
cars. But anyways,
All right, I'll
ridiculous.
drive carefully, yeah.
no, it's ridiculous. That something like that, you get the police is on top of you and someone died. Nothing really happens.
Right, right. Well, you know, it's a different circumstance. So, but no, I really did enjoy it. You know, and I love being behind the camera, and it really brought me back to those days in high school when I was behind the camera, filming and directing and editing, and which was really and truly was my first love. So it was getting back to that.